Hey Moglets, today we're taking an early look at 6.2. We got Durin, Yehoda, and of course all the character buffs, which I want to talk about. Probably first, to be honest, it's just so rare they actually buff characters, so I want to look at them. And I guess all these buffs come in the form of an additional passive. We have Witch's Eve Right, Temporal Wind's Eulogy for Venti here. It's worth pointing out that these passives only work when you have at least two of these special characters in a team, Venti being one and Durin being another. And we can actually see that in the team bonus here, 2 Hexerai characters in the party. Taking a look at Venti now, and I do have 6.1 pulled up on my own account so we can compare. I was originally making this video without a direct comparison, but I had already missed things with Venti. So first of all, on his normal attack talent, we have this entire additional section here. Basically, while Venti's burst is going, his arrows will pierce targets and deal additional damage. I'm not sure if there's like, oh yes, indeed, we have a new multiplier here, wind, thunder, arrow damage, 240% normal attack. That is a little insane. That is a higher multiplier than his fully charged aim shot. Besides that, his burst duration can be extended by 2 seconds and the cooldown reduced by 1 second if he's firing his normal attacks after doing burst. I do not believe anything has changed with his skill or his actual burst talent here. Both of these passives are the same as well. And then here we have an entirely new passive. After Venti does his burst, the active character gets a 50% damage buff when they trigger Swirl. As far as I'm aware, you have to be an Animo character to trigger Swirl, so you can consider this just a further damage boost to Venti, because the burst damage itself, 135% of its original damage, does get a straight up damage buff as well. Or you can try and get creative, maybe throw like Wanderer in there, have him trigger a Swirl after Venti's burst. We have a lot of characters to get through. I'm not going to theory craft too much here. I imagine Venti himself with his new Wind Thunder arrows and the buff here, it's like, he can probably do some really solid damage himself now. In terms of constellations, his C1 did change. When he's firing the Wind Thunder arrows, the normal attacks during burst, 2 extra tracking arrows dealing 20% of the original damage can be triggered up to every 0.25 seconds. C2 also gets a change. Instead of having the requirement that an enemy gets launched by his E, Skyward Sonnet, it's just period now. When you attack an enemy with Skyward Sonnet, 24% Animo and physical res reduction. That by itself is a buff and also encapsulates everything C2 was before. All of this is new, and this part is a cooldown reset for his E after doing burst. He also gets the Wherever a Breeze Blows effect after casting burst, and that's just a big damage buff for his E. So you can do E burst E, and that second E should be a lot stronger. And then while he's casting normal attacks, there's a 25% chance to re-get this effect, so his next E will also be super buffed. C4 also got changed. He no longer has to pick up an orb or particle to get the 25% Animo damage bonus. He just has to cast his skill or burst. The buff can apparently now extend to the active party member as well, although obviously the buff is only relevant for Animo characters. So C5 of course is the same, and C6. Additionally, the damage Venti deals to these opponents will gain a crit damage bonus of 100%. So basically just 100% extra crit damage for any enemies that Venti hits with his burst, which honestly should be everyone. So every constellation got changed. I was not expecting that. I was thinking maybe one or something, you know, to accommodate for his buffs, but that's crazy. But all right, let's move on to Albedo. Nothing different in normal attack. His A1 passive did get changed because, you know, he can make these silver isotomas now, which are just a new thing for Albedo. But for the A1 passive here, it basically just increases the, you know, damage his solar isotoma, his skill does, by 240% of his def. Considering at skill 9, they do 227% of his def. That's a pretty massive buff. I was already trying him a bit earlier before I decided to have the actual side-by-side comparisons here, and I couldn't see that the silver isotomas could actually attack enemies. Like, we weren't getting any more procs than usual, but due to this alone, they become essentially twice as strong anyway. And yes, this passive of course is completely new. It is quite long, so I'm going to try and summarize it, but feel free to pause and read if you want. And this was kind of the confusing thing. So the transient blossoms, that's the actual damage his little flowers do, transient blossom damage. Technically, the new silver isotomas can attack with transient blossoms, but only if there are no solar isotomas. Say, for example, the solar isotoma gets destroyed, the undestroyable silver isotoma will continue functioning. That's the only situation where I could see that they are doing damage. He also does get some new buffing capabilities, and he needs 3000 def to max out this passive, but it's basically a party-wide 12% damage bonus for normal characters and a 30% damage bonus for any of the Hexerai characters. Yeah, they just tacked on a 50% def bonus to his C1 after doing E. Oh lord, C2 changes. This is all the same. This is completely new. Basically, every time his flower attacks, he'll get a stack, and originally he can consume all 4 of those stacks to increase the damage of his burst. The update is that when he's off field and he gets 4 stacks, they're automatically consumed, and 3 blossoms will spawn, each dealing 300% of Albedo's def. It's considered burst damage and will also trigger the 125 EM buff. So yeah, that is a pretty damn big buff for his C2 as well. Dude, C4 also sounds insane. We're definitely gonna have to look at some of this stuff later. C4, as before, increases plunging attack damage by 30%. 30%. But also, if you jump near one of the new silver isotomas, which he can spawn, you know, a good amount of, the silver isotoma will be destroyed, but you get a much bigger jump and 30% more plunging attack ground impact damage. That's so interesting. C6, of course, also got changed. They changed every single constellation of both Venti. Oh my god, we're gonna be here for a minute. Dude, I don't even know anymore. This is insane. But it seems to boil down to a damage buff for his C2 and these fatal reckoning stacks / attacks. It is, I guess, just an extra thing they added on to C6, so whatever. Maybe it's really strong. I am having a hard time contextualizing what 250% of this stack system I just learned about is. Who else was in there? Why not Kaching? Where's Kaching buff? Anyway, Mona, Jesus Christ, does she have the most passives out of anyone in the game now? Yeah, okay, I guess in her case, it's really just the new passive and probably constellations as well. Oh, I hope constellations, mine's C6, I think. Basically, when Mona does normal attack, she can get a stack, up to 3 stacks. For each stack, increases the damage of Vaporize by 5%, so 15% Vaporize buff, but it's only applied to the one instance of attack, and then she would have to like come back on field and get 3 more stacks. So I don't know. I think more interestingly is her Omen can be extended up to 8 seconds by also doing normal attacks. So burst and then like do 4 normals, I guess. I mean, the Omen duration by default is 5 seconds. So that's quite a long extension there. I have a feeling they didn't buff constellations because Mona's a standard unit and she's like, you know, but we'll see. Oh, they did. Let's go. I think this is all the same. It's basically a 15% damage buff to hydro-related reactions. And if you're doing freezing, a 15% duration increase. And then specifically, if an off-field party member triggers it, it's enhanced to 160% of its original effect. My best guess is that they mean the 15% goes to 24%. Regardless, it doesn't seem like a massive thing, especially because it's restricted to off-field. C2's buff seems pretty nice as well. 20% chance to automatically do a charge attack. The new thing is, after doing burst, the next normal attack is guaranteed to automatically trigger a charge attack. And also new is a team-wide 80% EM buff for 12 seconds after doing charge attack, which should happen after burst anyway, naturally. So pretty cool, pretty cool. C4 got 15% crit damage attached to it, but only for Hexride characters. C6, thank God they changed it. I completely forgot about this. This was really weird. But before, you basically had to be in Illusory Torrent, the thing where she's underground for like 3 seconds to get the, you know, maximum 180 charge attack boost. I was like, what the hell? But basically, to get this stack now, there just has to be opponents affected by an Omen nearby, which honestly should be pretty natural now that she, you know, should stay on field after burst for a minute anyway to continue extending the Omen's duration, perhaps. Again, not too much theory crafting here. They've also added down here the damage Mona's charge attacks deal to opponents affected by an Omen will be increased to 200% of the original damage. Let's take a look at Klee now. I really hope I'm not going to regret last minute switching my free constellation to Nilou. Anyway, there's a lot of new text here. So when Klee does normal attacks, she has a 50% chance to get Explosive Spark, which is basically a damage boost for her charge attacks. You consume the spark to deal 50% increased damage. With Klee's new passive, doing skill or burst now gives her a stack as well, and she can hold up to 3 as opposed to only 1 before. And when you're in a team with one other Hexerai, her normal attack sequence doesn't reset, and her third normal attack in the chain will consume a spark to do a charge attack. This special 50% increased one, no stamina cost, blah blah. And then the totally new passive, basically a pretty large damage boost on her special charge attacks, the ones that cost no stamina and need a spark, based on her boom badges. Dude, why do they have to make it so complicated? She gets a different boom badge for her skill, burst, and normal attack, but they last 20 seconds, so probably plenty of time. But yeah, it does seem like a pretty nice buff. Constellations. Basically, they've just tacked on a 60% attack buff, which, you know, is a pretty good attack buff, but there's not much to say about it. I'm not sure if C2 is just reworded or it's different. Was it really like that it was only the mines from Klee's skill that reduced def and not just like the big ball at first? If that was the case, any part of her skill now reduces the opponent's def by 23, which is good. And yeah, honestly, her C2 is the main reason why she was originally the one I was going to get a constellation for, because def reduction is so rare in this game. I don't know if it's a game-changing thing or not, because again, I don't even have C2 Klee. Not much I've, you know, experimented in that regard. Oh, that's pretty cool. With her C4, you don't even have to swap off field anymore. It will just explode when its duration ends, doing the same damage. In fact, if she's still on field when the duration runs out, the damage will be increased by another 100%. That might be one of the biggest just changes to a constellation we've seen so far. Looking at her old C6, it's honestly very underwhelming. It's team-wide energy regen and a 10% pyro damage bonus. I'm not sure if I'm misunderstanding something, it just sounds bad. But then here's the new one. It is still just a team-wide 10% pyro damage bonus, but Klee herself now gets 50% pyro damage bonus, which is Pretty good. There we go. And then a buff to the stack system special charge attack stuff. 50% chance the stack won't be consumed. And while her burst is active, the first and second hits have a 40% chance to consume the spark, dealing, the special charge attack. So yeah, way better C6, obviously. I think we just have the 4 stars now left, Fischl, Razor, and Sucrose. Let's start with Razor, because I would be surprised if they could do anything to make him like a viable DPS in 2026 almost. As far as I can see, the only thing different with Razor is the new passive. The Wolf Within's damage dealt is increased by 70% of Razor's attack. This is the companion that fights along him when he is in burst mode. Okay, I mean, that sounds decent. What I'll definitely have to do for some of these is take some footage before the update drops and then compare after. And then this part is an additional attack equal to 150% of Razor's attack, and it will restore 7 energy. And this attack happens when his electro sigils overflow, which he gets by pressing his elemental skill. And I would assume somewhere else as well, else I'd just feel like it would take too long to get 3, and then a 4th one to overflow and proc this. So let us indeed look at his constellations now. No change to C1, surprisingly, or C2. Is he the first character with no change in constellation? So close, but they did change tap to press. Or that might be because I'm on mobile here. Oh, they did change his C6. So his C6 is an additional way to get electro sigils, but it seems to be only 1 every 10 seconds, so not that helpful. Let's see what the new version does here. Yeah, there we go. It gives him 3 electro sigils now instead of 1. Oh, and instead of getting 1 sigil by pressing his skill, he now gets 3 as well. And then also for 15 seconds after consuming electro sigils, which you do with the held skill, or I guess when you go into burst mode, Razor gets a 10 crit rate, 50 crit damage buff. So yeah, honestly, pretty big constellation change there. I'm not sure it's enough to make him a competitive 4-star DPS, but for those that have C6 Razor and like not much else, well, he got better, that's for sure. While we're looking at electros, sure, let's take a look at Fischl. Also for Fischl, it seems like the only new thing is indeed the passive. What are they talking about? Hark, Princess Nachtrabin, Osvaldo Hafrenens, he has witnessed the fall of countless worlds. See now the starry scepted for your sovereign. For this is the moment of deepest sin, when the gathered souls at the end of casualty shatter the darkness of fate. Additionally, what do you mean additionally? What does that mean and do? When Oz is out and upon triggering Overloaded, the active character gets a 22.5% attack increase for 10 seconds. And then if it's Electro or Lunar charged, a 90 EM bonus instead. Pretty modest buffs there, honestly, but Fischl's such a good character anyway. I don't think much more would be warranted. What about constellations? Anything different here? No for C5 and C6. Yes, C6 did get changed. All right, it's the same as before, basically coordinated attacks with Oz, dealing 30% of Fischl's attack. However, now when Oz does the coordinated attacks, her new passive gets a 100% buff on it. So in this context, 100% would just be double, right? So a 45% attack increase or a 180 EM buff, that's kind of insane. Like these went from pretty modest buffs to pretty good buffs. Like just with that, I mean, doubling is kind of, a big deal usually, but yeah, okay. I mean, very simple, very straightforward. Not much to say there, to be honest. Good buffs for an already good character though. And I believe Sucrose is the last one here. In her case, it is also just the passive here, as it has been with all 4 stars so far. After creating a small wind spirit. Okay, her E creates this small wind spirit. So after using a skill, nearby party members' everything damage are increased by 5.71428%. Is it just because she's like supposed to be smart with glasses and stuff that they add like 6 numbers after the point? And then after burst, if it's a Hexerai character, the same stuff will be increased by 7.1%. Those are tiny though. It's funny that they have a bunch of numbers after the point, but it doesn't say you can have multiple stacks of the buff or anything. So I assume it's just 5.7 and 7.1%. Nothing for C1, nothing for C2, nothing for C3, nothing for C4, nothing for C5. C6 is changed. Originally, it's a 20% element bonus for the element that gets absorbed by her burst. Okay, they have tacked on the 8.57142% for Hexerai characters as well. Yeah, Sucrose has, I would say, by far the smallest buff out of anyone. To be honest, I think what happened was they just wanted Sucrose to be one of these Hexerai characters because she is a pretty versatile support. She can be in a lot of teams and she can act as your second Hexerai when you want to trigger other Hexerai characters' buffs, but they didn't feel like she needs like buffs, which I don't think she does either. She's a very good 4-star. It's honestly, I think, more of a joke than anything because of all the extra numbers, but whatever. Pretty small buff, but a buff nonetheless. So there it is. That took way longer than I was expecting it to. There is one thing I really want to check out though, and that is Albedo's C4. I just want to see how that works, to be honest. So we're going to get him up to C4 and we'll take a look at that. So basically we can like put this E down and then we already have like one of the silver there, silver isotomas, whatever there. And so with Venti, we can just like, boom. Yeah, we can just like jump on it and do a plunge attack. So we don't have to wait for this one to like go up for example. It still will, of course, but now we can just run over one of the silver ones that he spawns and do a plunge attack like that with increased plunge damage. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool indeed. I'm not sure if the Albedo plunge meta has died by now. I assume so, because that was like early game stuff, but maybe this will revive it a bit. And just for fun, I do kind of want to just C6 Venti real quick and see if he can actually DPS. I guess we'll need a second Hexerite character, right? I'm not going to think too hard about it. We'll just try like this. We maxed Venti's signature. We're going to leave it at R1 though. And I'll probably just leave him in Viridescent, though if I really want to DPS, I'd probably change that later. We're going to at least give Bin Boy like Miss Splitter. Farozon can stay in Favonius. Yeah, Stringless is fine, whatever. We're not really looking at Fischl's damage too much. I'm pretty sure I'm allowed to show difficulty 5 Stygian. We'd have to actually clear hard first. Whatever, it's nothing super serious. I just kind of want to see, oh yeah, we have to get everyone's energy first. Venti really doesn't start doing damage until he gets his burst going. So let's just do Venti's burst. And this, oh, that's the like more powerful version. Oh, look at him getting shredded. I think I did see some decent numbers in there. Sure, let's try the same team versus the generator. Okay, let's do the full rotation now, hopefully. And here we go with Venti's. I did his E, and now we're gonna do another E. 32. Like each attack is doing, he attacks very fast. And they were actually doing some pretty solid damage. It takes way too long to get the entire team's energy, but I didn't really bother, you know, min-maxing artifacts on the creator experience server. All right, he has an electro shield, which is a little annoying. Do E burst and then another E there. Oh, now he has a pyro shield. That's super annoying. I kind of forgot how this guy works. Can do another E there. Oh, there we do. Oh my God, yeah, unfortunately, it was right at the tail end where his shield went away. Yeah, we'll just try difficulty 4 of this guy, because starting at difficulty 4, you need like different teams for everyone, so. All right, I think after his third ground attack here, we can start the rotation. All right, here we go. Fischl, or Faruzan, please. There we go. And Venti, E burst E, and then just start spamming some normals. Yeah, I think, was that a 75? We can do another E there. Oh no, hurry. Okay, we actually, like, I mean, I didn't really think about the team too much, but that's not bad. Like half damage in the first full rotation there. I mean, yeah, this is C6 Venti, but I also didn't even really, you know, think about it too hard. I just wanted to see what's going on, and there's definitely potential here. 108 seconds, but I think that's 90% because it takes so long for this team to get the energy, which I probably could fix, but I'm too lazy. And yeah, I think for everything else, we'll wait for the live version to talk about it more. It would just be a lot easier to compare like my own account to my own account, because everything here is a little bit different. But yeah, overall, some pretty insane buffs. If you have any thoughts, feel free to leave them in the comments down below. Thanks, as always, for watching, and until next time.